Sound is a vibration, a pressure wave that travels through a medium. We experience it every day, from a whisper to a concert. We measure its intensity in decibels. A quiet library is around 30 decibels. A rock concert can exceed 120. The threshold of human discomfort is around 130 decibels, but what happens when a sound goes far, far beyond that? History holds the record for a sound so immense, it defies modern comparison and challenges our understanding of nature's power. This wasn't a man-made event, it was a planetary-scale roar, a noise that circled the entire globe multiple times. To find its source, we must travel back in time, to a specific place and a specific date in the year 1883. Our destination is the Sunda Strait, located in what was then the Dutch East Indies, now modern Indonesia. Here, nestled between larger islands, was a volcanic island known to the world as Krakatoa. Before its cataclysm, it was a place of serene, tropical beauty, unaware of the immense energy stirring deep beneath it. This is the story of the day that tranquility was shattered by the loudest sound ever recorded. The year is 1883. The world is in an age of steam, exploration, and scientific discovery, largely unaware of the geological drama about to unfold. Krakatoa itself was an island composed of 3 distinct volcanic cones, a landmark for sailors navigating the busy Sunda Strait. Life on the nearby shores of Java and Sumatra was tranquil. Small villages dotted the coastlines, their inhabitants living in harmony with the sea. Dutch colonial administrators and merchants conducted their business in cities like Batavia, the hub of the region. For centuries, the volcano had been mostly quiet. Its last major event was in 1680, a distant memory for the local populace. The rich volcanic soil supported lush vegetation, making the island and its surroundings appear as a paradise. Sailors passing by would often marvel at its picturesque beauty, unaware of the immense magma chamber slowly building pressure below. This idyllic scene was the canvas upon which nature was about to paint its most dramatic and deafening masterpiece. No one could have predicted the scale of the impending event, or that this peaceful island would soon vanish from the map. But in May of 1883, the first whispers of the catastrophe began. The giant was starting to stir. In May 1883, the tranquility was first broken. German ships reported hearing thunderous noises and seeing a large cloud over Krakatoa. For the next few months, the volcano entered a phase of continuous, smaller eruptions. Steam and ash were vented into the atmosphere. The sounds were loud enough to be heard in Batavia, nearly 100 miles away, where residents reported unsettling rumbles. Curiosity seekers, and even a team of Dutch surveyors, traveled to the island to witness the spectacle up close. They found the island's lush vegetation completely buried under a thick layer of fine, gray ash. The air was thick with the smell of sulfur, and the constant roar of the volcano was an unnerving soundtrack to their exploration. By August, the activity intensified dramatically. 2 of the volcanic cones, Danan and Perbawatan, were erupting almost continuously. The sky for miles around was perpetually darkened by the ash cloud, turning midday into a gloomy twilight. Pumice, a light, porous volcanic rock, began to clog the Sunda Strait, creating floating rafts that were a hazard to shipping. This was all just a prelude. The volcano was building towards a final, catastrophic release of pressure on a scale nobody could imagine. On the morning of August 27, 1883, the prelude ended. At 10:02 a.m. local time, Krakatoa unleashed its full fury. A series of 4 colossal explosions occurred, the third of which was the most powerful and the source of the legendary sound. The force was so great that it obliterated 2/3 of the island. Over 20 square kilometers of land simply ceased to exist. A column of ash, smoke, and rock was propelled an estimated 80 kilometers or 50 miles into the stratosphere. The sky turned pitch black for hundreds of miles around. Day became night, a darkness that would last for up to 3 days in some areas. The collapse of the volcano into its magma chamber displaced a colossal amount of seawater, triggering a series of immense tsunamis. These waves, some reaching heights of over 40 meters or 130 feet, raced towards the nearby coastlines of Java and Sumatra. But at the heart of this cataclysm was the sound. A pressure wave of unimaginable intensity, the true focus of our story. This was not merely a noise to be heard, it was a physical force, powerful enough to rupture the eardrums of sailors 40 miles away. The sound that erupted from Krakatoa that day would begin a journey that would see it recorded on the other side of the planet. The explosion created a pressure wave, a disturbance in the air so powerful it registered as sound. But this was on a different scale. At its source, the sound was likely incomprehensible, far beyond any physical limit a human could perceive or survive. 100 miles away from the volcano, the sound was still an astonishing 172 decibels, loud enough to cause permanent hearing damage. This is comparable to standing next to a rocket engine during launch, but experienced from the distance of a major city. The shockwave traveled outwards, not just as sound, but as a physical blow. It was a hammer blow from the atmosphere itself. On nearby islands, the pressure wave was strong enough to cause significant structural damage to buildings long before the tsunami arrived. The wave moved at the speed of sound, over 760 miles per hour, an invisible harbinger of the destruction to follow. For those who heard it and survived, it was described not as a bang, but as the roar of 1,000 cannons. This pressure wave, now separated from its fiery origin, began its silent, unstoppable journey across the entire planet. It was no longer just a sound, but a global atmospheric event, waiting to be detected by sensitive instruments thousands of miles away. In the immediate vicinity of Krakatoa, the aftermath was apocalyptic. The island itself was gone, replaced by a deep underwater caldera. The immense tsunamis generated by the collapse inundated the coastlines of Java and Sumatra, reshaping the landscape. Entire coastal towns and villages were swept away by the powerful waves, leaving little trace they ever existed. The Dutch warship Beru, anchored nearby, was carried nearly 2 miles inland and deposited in a forest. The world was plunged into darkness as the massive ash clouds spread, blocking out the sun completely. Pyroclastic flows, superheated currents of gas and rock raced across the surface of the sea, a phenomenon previously thought impossible. These flows reached the coast of Sumatra, 40 kilometers away, demonstrating the incredible energy of the eruption. The sea itself was littered with vast floating mats of pumice, so thick they could be walked upon in some places. The environmental devastation was total. Coral reefs were smothered, and marine and terrestrial ecosystems were completely destroyed. While the region dealt with this immense catastrophe, the sound wave continued its silent, inexorable journey around the world. The sound, now traveling as an infrasonic pressure wave below the range of human hearing, spread across the globe. It was first recorded on barographs in Batavia, which registered a massive spike in air pressure, equivalent to over 172 decibels. Hours later, the wave reached Calcutta, India. Barographs there recorded the spike, confirming its incredible speed and power. The wave continued across continents and oceans. It was recorded in Melbourne, St. Petersburg, London, and San Francisco. Incredibly, the pressure wave was so powerful that it circled the Earth not once, but at least 3 to 4 times. Weather stations around the world recorded this unusual pressure spike every 34 hours, the time it took for the wave to circumnavigate the globe. The wave that traveled away from Krakatoa was met 12 hours later by the wave that had traveled around the world in the opposite direction. This antipodal point, where the waves converged, was near modern-day Colombia. The effect was too small to be felt, but it was there. For 5 days, the planet's atmosphere rang like a bell with the reverberations of a single, catastrophic event. This global detection by instruments provides the undeniable proof of the sound's immense journey and its unrivaled power. While instruments tracked the silent pressure wave, the audible sound also traveled an incredible distance. In Perth, Australia, over 3,000 kilometers away, residents reported hearing what sounded like 2 loud shots from the northwest. Police were dispatched to investigate the source of the mysterious sounds, finding nothing to explain them. Even further away, on the island of Rodrigues in the Indian Ocean, the sound was heard clearly. Islanders there reported hearing the distant roar of heavy guns coming from the east over the ocean. The local police chief even filed an official report, believing a ship was in distress and firing its cannons for help. This distance, nearly 5,000 kilometers or 3,000 miles, is widely considered the furthest distance a sound has ever been audibly heard. Imagine a sound made in New York City being clearly heard by people in San Francisco. That is the scale we are talking about. These widespread, corroborated reports from ordinary people provide a human scale to the scientific data. It wasn't just an instrument reading. It was a genuine, audible event experienced by people an entire continent away. So, how loud was it really? The 172 decibels at 100 miles is our most reliable figure, but the source was far louder. Estimates using modern physics place the source volume at an incredible 310 decibels, a number that breaks the very definition of sound. Sound can't travel above 194 decibels in Earth's atmosphere. Beyond that, it's no longer a wave in the air, but a wave of air, a shock wave. The energy released by the eruption was immense, estimated to be equivalent to 200 megatons of TNT. This is roughly 13,000 times the power of the atomic device used at Hiroshima, a truly planetary-scale release of energy. How does it compare to other loud events? The 1908 Tunguska event in Siberia was also immense, but left no barograph data of this quality. The most powerful man-made explosion, the Tsar Bomba, released 50 megatons of energy, only a quarter of Krakatoa's might. Even the mighty Saturn V rocket, the loudest continuous man-made sound, reached only about 204 decibels at its source. Krakatoa stands alone in recorded history, a perfect storm of geological power and 19th century scientific observation. It remains the benchmark against which all other cataclysmic sounds are measured, a testament to the Earth's dormant power. The legacy of Krakatoa extends far beyond its sound. The ash injected into the stratosphere had a global impact. For years afterward, the world witnessed intensely vibrant red and orange sunsets caused by sunlight scattering off the fine volcanic particles. These sunsets are famously captured in art, most notably in Edvard Munch's painting, The Scream, whose sky was inspired by these phenomena. The eruption also caused global temperatures to drop by an average of 1.2 degrees Celsius for the next 5 years, a volcanic winter. Life eventually returned to the remnants of Krakatoa. A new cone, named Anak Krakatau or Child of Krakatoa, emerged in 1927. This new volcano is still active, a constant reminder of the geological forces that lie just beneath the surface. Could a sound louder than Krakatoa be possible? Certainly. A large asteroid impact would dwarf even this volcanic event. But in the span of human recorded history, the cry of Krakatoa in 1883 remains the undisputed champion. It's a humbling lesson in the scale of our planet, a world where the ground beneath our feet can produce a roar heard across the globe. A sound that, for a few days, made the entire world listen to the awesome, terrifying power of nature.